message. The Warborn can be creative when they want to be.
Hello, this is Chris Bratt off of Eurogamer, joined by Bertie Purchase.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good, thank you.
We're going to talk about quite a lot of For Honor. As you know, Bertie, we've just put 2 videos up at the same time, although this is the first one we're recording, and we're going to be looking at both the single player and the multiplayer from a recent preview event. So, this is the single player, which you won't have played any of yet, right? Because
I'm excited to see this.
The closed alpha just had multiplayer bits in it.
It
We've
did.
seen a little bit of single player from some, like, I think E3 they showed like a Viking mission. This one is brand new and features the knights. Well, the start of this is a knight character.
Because they just got clobbered in the head twice.
Yeah, so this is, there's actually a little bit of a learning curve at the start here. So I've been playing all day as characters that are really good at blocking. And this right here is a Peacekeeper, one of the newer characters. Not available in the previous beta, and yeah, she doesn't do blocking very well. She's like really lightly armored, very fast attacks, and instead of like typical blocking, you're more about deflecting and then sort of countering enemy attacks. I just found it really difficult, yeah, like I said, having played a bunch of characters all day that were really good at like standing still, reading the attacks of your opponents. To play a Peacekeeper, you need to be really like focusing on dodging, and if you can deflect and counterattack, you're golden. But this is actually perhaps one of the more difficult kinds of characters to play, the sort of assassin kit playstyle, I guess.
It's funny, they always feel the need to offer this kind of character, whereas in a kind of war type scenario, you can imagine that this character probably doesn't exist on the battlefield.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, to be fair, For Honor is a game about Vikings fighting samurai fighting
true.
knights, so let's not get too lost in the detail of like what happened in actual wars, because the reason this kind of character exists is to offer like a different playstyle. Like each of the factions so far has a bunch of different characters that fit these kind of roles. So the Vikings have a sort of fast, very offensive character like this. The Knights, I think, have one. This is the Knights of the Peacekeeper. I mean, the Samurai. It's more about just offering like players different ways of stabbing each other on the battlefield, I guess.
So this is interesting because the single player in For Honor was I don't know if they would call it an afterthought, but the promise of For Honor was this multiplayer game, and then the next time they talked about it a year later, it suddenly had this single player mode.
Yeah,
is there a story?
Yes, there is. There's a bit of a story to each one. I haven't seen much of like the overarching stuff and how these characters link together. But this like character is a named character. She's called Mercy, and she's been sent in to like.
Where have I heard that name?
Who knows? She's been sent in to like clear a fortress ahead of her pals turning up. And
on her
taking
own.
over. Yeah, because she's the stealth character. That's what you do when you're the stealth character. So there is a bit of a storyline. However, it's very simplistic. I haven't seen much in the way of like twists or real like intrigue to consider yet. Like for example, in the Viking mission, which you'll see later on, you're Vikings fighting other Vikings, mostly to get back barrels of potatoes.
Oh well, you would. You would.
It's sort of the main objective you're given. As a result,
Does everyone chip in?
What? I mean, it is unlike this mission. There is a group of Vikings, so I guess you could say that. Yes.
Are the graphics crisp?
Right. Anyway, stop it. All right. The single player for me, it doesn't do a lot. So whereas the multiplayer, when it's at its best, I think it's quite a patient thing, and it's all about like reading the attacks and the thoughts of your opponent, leading them one way and then attacking another, or maybe like luring them in, committing them to a heavy attack, and then suddenly you jump in and do some damage. And it's this kind of back and forth. It's quite like a psychological game when it's in those moments. I don't get that from killing tens and tens of similar looking soldiers in the single player.
So this is just a tutorial, right? Is that what we're getting?
I feel like if we're going to be kind to For Honor single player, it is a way of teaching you how to play each of the different characters. And to be honest, I did get a bit of that from this, because as you can sort of tell, I'm finding my feet with this kind of character, this hero style. I don't really, so far when I played For Honor, I don't play this kind of very offensive, can't block very well character because I find it quite difficult. And so this was like a safe space to sort of get to grips with that. But you know what, I don't think that's what people want from this single player campaign, especially when we saw this week the reaction to the fact this game is always online, and people were sort of confused because they anticipated that the single player would be a bigger part of the game than I think.
Yeah, so the messaging has been, and I think the assumption is that this is going to have a single player Ubisoft campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So people, I'm looking at the game and I think, oh, it reminds me of Assassin's Creed.
I haven't climbed a single tower yet. But
and from judging by this, I mean, it might get much better, but this game
it doesn't do much, right? It's like,
don't get this game just for single player.
Yeah,
that's what I'm beating around the bush at saying here.
However, as we'll see in the other video that we'll just put up, I got a lot more out of playing the multiplayer. Like, the multiplayer is definitely the primary focus of this game. I don't think that's
I don't mind something like this to get to grips with the controls. You can dodge, right? You're just not doing much of it. You can dodge.
So I'm doing a little bit more of it as I get more comfortable. It's just I'm so used to the characters, like I say, I've been playing beforehand. I've been playing some of the bigger, heavier characters where you really don't want to be dodging that much. You want to stand your ground and block. And it's a little bit weird playing a
I do like the heft and chunk of the world, though. It is very nice to look at. I do like the character. I like the muck and destroyedness of their outfits as well. There's nothing pretty about these characters, and I love that.
Absolutely, I think that's probably one of the and also everything feels like when you actually land a hit. Especially with some of the heavier characters, it feels like it feels substantial.
How many moves? What's the variety of moves? How much are you unlocking here? How much new stuff are you gaining? How much variety is there in how you're approaching enemies?
So the typical leveling up system, which you have in the multiplayer and exists in every match, so you level up and unlock a series of abilities that you'll preset, similar to like a sort of MOBA idea, like. If you kill a lot of the NPC characters, you can use that to sort of get to a high level, unlock some abilities that will make you more powerful. There's a bit of that. However, in the single player, it's in the form of like pickups. You pick a couple of starting abilities right before the mission begins, and I picked one that allows me to heal, which is absolutely vital. And then it's just like the odd thing that you'll pick up that does something interesting, like a flash bomb. Or something that gives you like a passive ability. So there's a little bit there, and then in terms of combos, each character has a different sort of flavour to the way that their light and heavy attacks sort of blend together. And then also each character has a few set combos that you sort of learn as you go along. But that's about it, I guess.
So there's not this kind of skill trees and things to unlock?
Not throughout the single player. Because it's very much using the mechanics of the multiplayer. And also, if it started teaching you about skill trees, I think that would be misleading and then bring you into a multiplayer game that doesn't work, anything like that.
And if you... this character you're playing in single player here, does this have any bearing on your presence in multiplayer, apart from that you've learned the ropes?
No presence at all. There are some like cosmetic unlocks, and I imagine you might be able to get some kind of specific visual things by completing the campaign, perhaps. But that's about it. There's no crossover in terms of abilities. Like every time you play a match of For Honor, you start from level 1 every time. There is no carry on. That's what I mean by it's sort of like got this MOBA idea to it. So you'll pick the abilities that you will unlock throughout the game. So if you play well, if your team is doing well, you'll unlock these free abilities.
So if you come up against someone who's played the game for hours and hours, there's no technical difference between your characters.
That's right. And I think that's going to be key to the whole thing. We have spoken with the developers about some of their plans for like microtransactions in the game, and there's definitely you unlock a currency called steel in For Honor, which I think is just quite funny, and use that to, as far as we know so far, unlock cosmetic like upgrades, and also I think you'll use it to, by the sounds of it, probably unlock new heroes as they're added to the game.
What are the heroes like? Are they quite distinct for each?
Yeah, very distinct. I think you definitely see that like between each faction has access to the same kind of heroes basically, but they have a flavour to them. Sort of like in games like League of Legends or even Overwatch, where there are like roles that you fit into. So every faction has a sort of peacekeeper-esque character like this. Really fast, squishy. And can't rely on blocking or really taking too much damage. Every faction has that with a different flavour to it. So the weapons they'll use are slightly different, and as a result, their animations will play out differently. And they may have some kind of unique traits to consider. But there's always one of these kind of characters that you'll have access to. And that seems to be, the idea going forward.
The presentation is excellent.
I really struggle with this guy, by the way. He's like the mini boss of the mission.
He's really going for it. It's fast as well.
Yeah. There's a real thing in For Honor about once you get into a combo, once you stagger them with that first hit, you can usually do quite a lot of damage. Very much like a fighting game. Once you get in past the block and you do something, you can turn that initial attack into quite a lot of damage if you get the momentum. It's just about... It's about getting in with that first hit. Whoever gets in with past the blocking and manages to set themselves up in a situation where they can do a combo comes out victorious in most fights. Anyway, I've sneaked into the fortress and then just sort of made it collapse, which was the mission, which has apparently helped out my buddies.
All sitting around the fire with their helmets on, so no one can actually talk to each other. Fine.
And this is stuff that I can't show, so let's go ahead to the Viking bit, which is a little different.
Okay.
A year since Apollyon came. Our people starved. And the worst of us fell on each other, like beasts. Growing fat on their own people's misery. Ragnar was one of those. Let's feast! And so, I came down from the mountains. I joined the Warborn, and then we did something about it.
Okay, so this is one of the new missions that I played, in which the Vikings are actually fighting other Vikings. Bertie, how do you feel like that?
I'm not great.
So the reason behind it, as we'll see as the mission plays out, is the fact that one of the groups of Vikings, the enemy Vikings, have, by the looks of it, stolen our barrels of potatoes.
Whoa!
Genuinely, that's what we're about to discover as we go on. Like the mission objective that we have after burn down the gate, which I learned something interesting about fire here. You don't want to be too close to it when you make it happen. Once we've burnt down the gates, our primary objective will be to take back what is rightfully ours, which is visualized to us as barrels of potatoes. This time around we're playing a different kind of character. It is it's one of the Viking raiders, and unlike the Peacekeeper, which you've just seen, can actually block properly, and oh my god am I more comfortable with this playstyle. This is definitely...
I like the speed, and the speed is slightly unexpected. I was expecting, because of the two-hander,
to
be quite...
also, the fire still hurts you after it's landed. You want to give it a second, then you're in. Anyway, here you ready? New mission objective. Well, let's press circle by this barrel and see what's going on. There it is.
That's a lot of potatoes, to be fair.
We're not done yet, Bertie. There will be... I think we're after at least 3 more barrels before we're going home. So as you can probably already tell by some of the dialogue here, it is I don't really get the sense that you're going to come away from For Honor being like, that was a story that's taught me something about myself. It's more about making interesting setups in which a bunch of big Viking men can fight other Viking men, or whatever the mix-up that Ubisoft want for that mission. Which is fair enough. You know what? Okay, if that's what you want, then that's all right. Yeah, as we said with the Peacekeepers, really this mission to me is about learning how to play a raider more than it is about anything else.
I want to see this unblockable zone attack that is.
Oh yeah, I do start to use that. This is a specific ability to the raider which allows you to do. I think it's sort of like a spin attack which you can't be blocked.
Makes sense, yeah, with
the big two-handed axe. However, the most overpowered thing I've discovered in this mission is those freaking fire flasks, which you can get all over the place. They drop enemies in one go. They can be thrown from a proper distance. They can destroy towers and gates. It's all about the fire flasks. I realise. Yeah.
Yeah, I like how they use the different parts of the weapon, like how he's using the sort of dart of the axe.
Yeah, all the animations really do flow together nicely, like throughout this, especially when you start going into like executions from like a heavy attack or something. Yeah, they've definitely nailed that part of the game. Can I destroy the gate and the tower with a single fire flask? Yes, I can, Bertie.
Remarkable.
Thank you very much. I mean,
they're good, aren't they? Because when you throw it, it doesn't look like it's that powerful. It's
but then, like, everything over there has just died. And yeah, I found this character a lot easier to play than the Peacekeeper, just because you can actually stand your ground a little bit. The worst thing you can do in a fight in For Honor is once you take that first hit, you panic. Like, the moment you start to panic and just like wiggle your joystick around because you don't know which way you're supposed to be facing, and like you try to get out of the next attack but you can't quite manage it, that's how you lose battles. So being able to actually take a couple of hits and then readjust and not be dead is sort of more what I'm into. But as a result, although you say the attacks are fast, and they are, compared to like two swords, my damage output isn't quite as rapid as the other character.
Do you get a sense in the multiplayer fights that people are picking a certain type of character, that one works better than others?
Yeah, you'll see that in the other video actually. We play some elimination, which is like a new mode where after a death you're out for the rest of the round, and a real sort of meta game started to appear, where in fact those Peacekeepers were really popular because they move so quickly. Whereas I tended to stick to the bigger characters because they look massive and frightening, which is sort of the angle I took. Anyway, we've got one more food supply to loot, which I think is on the other side of this, and then we'll have something a little bit different than the other mission, where there is actually a proper boss fight in this. Also, I'm going to give you a little teaser: vehicle combat.
What?
Yeah.
What?
So get ready for that.
You just torched their house. So,
yeah, but they were
how long are
from
the single player experiences? Do you have any idea?
And what is it? A whole campaign?
Yeah.
Difficult to tell. Like these are both early missions, from what I've seen, and they tie into a world map that you sort of flirt between. I don't know. We weren't given any kind of real estimate. I think. I think probably what you'd expect from a sort of single player add-on to a mainly multiplayer focused game that costs £40 or $60 or whatever. I wouldn't. Yeah, I think this is very much a sort of by the numbers. We're doing the single player bit now, guys.
And important to, I think you mentioned as well that there's going to be additional content coming for the game, but that's in Overwatch style, is included in the price.
All the maps and modes for the multiplayer are coming as free updates. More like Rainbow Six Siege, actually. I think it's probably the fairest comparison. Another Ubisoft Montreal game, actually. And anyway, we'll. Something. I love that, like, to open the door, the Vikings just start chucking axes at it until someone opens it. Big fan of that as a technique.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, there you are. Completely oblivious to the fact that his entire village is on fire. He's like, what's going on out there? I was feasting.
Face me.
Ah.
Here he comes.
So this is actually a more like unlike that little mini boss that we had when we were playing as the Peacekeeper, this is actually the proper boss fight bit. And I immediately, quite boldly I think, try and get a fire flask in there because I know it's so powerful. But because it's a 1 versus 1 setup, it's actually kind of difficult to land that to begin with.
The combat is faster and more aggressive in points than I had realised, even from playing it.
I'm trying to do it again. So greedy. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, considering it's like 2 big dudes with 2-handed axes, you'd maybe think it'd be a little bit more slower. Well, then again, you have moments like that where you just sort of you flirt between different stances.
His hits don't seem to be doing that much damage to you.
Yeah, but he has a lot more health than I do. It's yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because they want this. Ooh, yeah. You see that? See what I mean about the fire flask?
His health.
I mean, I completely almost killed myself, and now I'm really having to go for it and hope that I make it all the way. Yeah, I think that they assumed that players would just use those fire flasks to destroy the gates, and maybe the odd like soldier along the way.
Okay, I see.
Here comes vehicle combat, and this is what I describe as the bit in a single player campaign where there's an on the rails horse fight.
So you're not controlling the horse here?
Well, actually, I can move left to right, although it takes me a moment to actually realise that. So I figured it was just about making sure I was attacking in the right direction, but there is, and so I hit like quite a few things along the way. And at this stage, I'm like, well, that's confusing because I don't even know how I'm supposed to hit that. And I try that time. I'm like, you know what? There must be another thing to consider, another joystick to use, perhaps. I think, is this me? I think I've understood it now. Oh no, maybe not. It takes some fire damage. Oh, there we are. I'm like, oh, so you can move the horse left to right in a very quite agile manner.
Horses can just jump sideways.
Yeah,
like that.
That's how that works. And then I have paused the game for some reason, so we'll skip forward slightly. That looks about right.
So this horses are not in multiplayer, presumably?
No, I get the impression this is probably a one-off, considering it's quite a basic swing left or right while slowly getting closer to the enemy. This is what I mean about the single-player part of For Honor. It just feels like they were going through the motions. It's like, you know what, we better do a bit. Like, we had loads of fighting, just Vikings and stuff. Let's mix it up.
To be fair, asking people for 40 quid for a multiplayer only game doesn't seem like
I hear you, but it just doesn't do anything for me. I didn't come out of this being like, yes, glad they spent extra time on that part of the game instead of, you know, continuing to flesh out the multiplayer, which is what For Honor is really all about. Also, quite pissed off that I don't even get to like kill the guy.
Yeah, this is a hell of a death sequence.
I'm just watching it now.
Given that you won the boss fight,
I'm just a passenger.
a while ago.
Rode the horse. I did the the boss fight.
Oh, blimey!
That was an unblockable attack, it would appear. Anyway, so you kill the Viking boss, and in doing so become the Viking boss. And
who wouldn't steal potatoes from his own people, but would kill a lot of them.
Yes.
Makes sense.
Oh, mate, you shouldn't have said that. You shouldn't have said that. And there we are. That's pretty much everything that I did, single player wise, in For Honor. Yeah, it is what it is. I'm not excited about it. It's an okay tutorial in terms of learning how to play some of these characters. It's really all about multiplayer. So if you actually want to see what that's about, we'll have a link up here for the other video that's going up, which takes a look at some new multiplayer characters and modes and bits and pieces, and really is the meat of the game, I think. Alright, cool. Maybe see you over there. Thanks very much for watching, and goodbye.
Bye.
You're in charge now. Join us. We are with you. They weren't much to look at, but they were a start.